Well, thank you all for having me here today. Can you make it a little louder?
I don't have control. I just have control of the video.
Oh, okay. So, let's see. Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone, for having me here today. And Nancy, thank you especially for, it's like a vacuum cleaner. I've done it a couple of times. Except there's no dog to run over. Oh, I missed that. That sounded good. Oh. Lucky lady. You must have good help. Okay, well, Nancy, thank you for putting this wonderful event together, and I commend the innovation, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. For those of you that have heard me speak before, you're going to hear it again. But there's nothing wrong with hearing a message for the second time, because sometimes what we didn't get the first time, it wasn't appropriate. So now you might hear it again, and it may resonate with you a little bit more today. So whatever's a duplicate, I hope it makes sense. And for those that haven't heard me speak before, I hope I can share some wisdom and some information that might help you in your business and your career sometime in the future. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce myself with this next slide that talks about a little bit of two things that I'm working on right now. Some of you may have seen the publication Palm Beach Woman magazine. I started that magazine in 2009. I started it last year, but in 2009, I was head of marketing for the largest bulletproof vest manufacturer in the world. And unfortunately, we had a major change in controls. That's when you bring in a new board of directors. And we're a very large publicly traded company. When the new board of directors came in, they chopped the top 25 at the top. I was number 22 out of 1,600 people, and then they just continued chopping. So they also chopped my 401k. So I went from a global crisis to actually having nothing going on. I moved here from New York. I want to jump forward to my background and just a few brands that I've worked on in my career. I moved here from New York. I was working on the Mary-Kate and Ashley license and Barbie license. And so I left New York, came here, and worked on the DuPont Kevlar license. And inside of every bulletproof vest that there is virtually out there, there are Kevlar materials. And I learned more about how to stop a bullet, its physics, and also chemistry, a little bit more than I ever wanted to know. I was interested really in barrettes and ponytailers and hair dryers. So it was very, very interesting. So nonetheless, these are some of the brands I've had the honor, and I say that very, very committedly, to work on. Just quick highlights of my background. King World, the lower right-hand corner. It's funny, full circle in your career. In the 90s, I started working for, I was working on infomercial products. The Michael Douglas was in one of the infomercial products that we produced, and then I had the opportunity to be on QVC and pitch some products and also work with some Hollywood wives, and the name of their company was High Heels and Loafers. Gotta love that. So I had the opportunity to work with Chuck Barris's wife, Red Barris, Piri Jones Ruther, who's married to Steve Ruther, and Irina Medavoy, who is married to Mike Medavoy. A couple of those old movies in the 90s, Dancing with Wolves and movies like that, the great chick movies. So they wanted to develop product, and everybody was always looking for something to make and produce and brand themselves. Regardless of whether you're a Hollywood wife married to someone wealthy, women, I found, regardless of status, still wanted to make a name for themselves. So I had the opportunity to work with entrepreneurial women in the 90s, and then I started to, from my background of designing, engineering, prototyping, and manufacturing, having worked for a boutique agency, I got recruited to go into corporate America, very large organizations. So I started working on all these different licenses. These opportunities came to place. And from a very strange background, going to a conventional corporate background, and now back in what I call a strange background, entrepreneurial, I've learned a lot. So moving around the country, I was able to work on a lot of these brands. And one of the things I noticed along the way, which we're going to talk about today, is that the key to customer retention is product innovation. Every one of these brands, regardless of category, regardless if it's a bulletproof vest, regardless if it is a hairdryer under the license of Revlon, regardless if it's a ponytailer or a backpack developed with the license of Mary-Kate and Ashley on it, the key to these brands, what keeps them going, what keeps us buying, is innovation. And I always tell this joke, and it's the quintessential marketing statement that Jerry Seinfeld told in the 90s when he had his show. He would open up the show with some kind of monologue. And this particular evening, He made a statement that just hit home as a marketer. He said, you know, I was at the store today and I noticed that they have a new Tide out. There's a new and improved Tide. He smelled his shirt. He said, what's wrong with the old one? Well, think about that. His mom bought Tide, he's been buying Tide, and I can guarantee today he's still buying Tide. Why? Because if someone doesn't innovate and re-engineer and reinvent his or herself or product, they go somewhere else. And just think about that. It's kind of like in a relationship. If things get old and stagnant, your eye's going to wander. So your customers do the same thing. It is our responsibility to take care of our customers. And how we take care of our customers is by understanding their needs and their wants. And sometimes they don't even know what they are. So we can bring those innovations to them. So we're going to jump into the 10 secrets that big brands use that small businesses can too. And these are the fundamental steps that those Hollywood wives use to develop their products. These are the steps that those big brands that I just showed you, the very orthodox brands, use. And these are also some of the things that I try to do in developing my business and producing a magazine, and something that I'll reveal at the end, which is a new innovation that we're working on today. And on a sidebar, I also work with small to mid-sized companies in helping them grow their businesses. So if you're trying to launch a product or develop a new service and you want to market yourself, I can work with you on some of these things that we're going to, actually all of these things that we're going to go into today. So we'll jump ahead. What do big brands or big companies have in common with small business? It's innovation. Everybody's had an idea for a product or a service sometime or another. Regardless of the size of the company, regardless if it's a privately owned company or a public company, they all make or sell something. And the key to keeping these companies going is the next slide, and that is you need visibility. If people don't know who you are, you'll have no sales. So those three components are very important. You're going to hear that kind of weaved in throughout my entire presentation today. Innovation, a driving force, visibility, which is marketing, and we need sales, bottom line, the financial to keep the business going. The next slide, we're going to talk about the 10 steps. Now, we only have 30 minutes today. I've probably burned out 6 or 7 already. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. Forgive me for that, but I'm going to hit on the ones that really are most important. Each one of them are important. But the key here is small businesses are so busy. Sometimes they're undercapitalized. Sometimes they don't have enough financial capital or human capital. So it's always a capitalization issue. So sometimes we want to skip a step. And it's difficult. Even as a small business owner, I want to skip some of these steps. But I've noticed when I do follow these steps, there is a positive outcome. Because at the end of the day, we want to develop what's called brand cachet. You want people to really understand what your brand is about. And we'll go into the next slide. So how do you develop a brand? From a marketing perspective, the difference between marketing and sales is similar to a television show or to a movie. In a movie, you have a director, you have a playwright, and that's really on the marketing side. And then on the sales side, you have the actor who's presenting. So marketing is about analyzing and strategizing, and then sales is about pitching and closing. We, as small business owners, have to be our entire cast of characters. It is our responsibility to understand what every single person in the cast in that movie that we're creating about our business does. We need to analyze and strategize and know how to pitch, present, and close. What is closing? Asking for the money. So in analyzing, there's 3 things to marketing, very, very important. Psycho, demo, geo. Demographic, how tall, how short, how wide, how much money, you get the basics. Geographic, where are they? Who are your customers? Where do they live? How do you know who to target? And how do you know how to get there? And the psychographic, this part people forget the most. And I do think that this is where women have a major advantage. Women have an advantage on the psychographic because we're very emotional. And in looking at the 2 different brands, as Nancy said, when I went from a fashion crisis to a global crisis, going from a female-dominant category to a male-dominant category, because only 15% of people are in law enforcement and the military that wear body armor. And I'm used to 95% of the people that bought our products, actually 85% of all products are made or are influenced, sales are made or influenced by women. But I worked in female-dominated categories and switched to male-dominated categories. And the difference in the management style of the two is sometimes they forget the psychographic. And the psychographic is the emotional cord as to why we do what we do and why we want what we want. So I believe women in business have a major advantage in understanding the psychographics as to why our customers buy what we do. So we learned that through conversation, and major advantage today. Even in 2009 when I was VP of marketing, we didn't really use social media to the degree that it's used today. And that's where the conversation is allowed to take place, a little bit more than the conventional. We used a lot of qualitative and quantitative analysis to do research. Now you can just post a question and get the answer. It's incredible. So having conversation, really that's some of the psychographic, and having that emotional connection to your consumer, taking the time to be patient enough to get to know who they are, we have an advantage as businesswomen. So I'm kind of rushing through this. I would go a little more granular, but I'm going to go through the highlights. And on the analysis, just explained it. There's another very, very important component here. I consult an IT company, a search engine optimization company here in Palm Beach. And when I had the opportunity to work with them, first off, you'll see on my Facebook page some of these pictures. There's a bad photo of me. It looks like I'm frustrated and yelling at my clients, but I'm not. You can see I use my hands all the time. So one of the things I asked their team, their marketing and their sales team, when we did a strategy session, is what business are you in? And everybody raised their hand and said, oh, we're in IT, we do search engine optimization, we can get people on the first page of Google, we could do this, we can do that. I said, okay, well, what does that mean? Nobody knew. Okay, so I told them what business they're in. They're in the lead generation business. That's what they do. So think about your business a little bit differently. You have to think about the results of what you provide, not how you do it. You don't necessarily have to tell someone how you do what you do. You have to start with what results do you provide first. So when they get their clients on this first page of Google for search engine optimization, and they get their business, if they're a plumber, they get them there. Now somebody knows they have a broken pipe, they type in plumber, West Palm, it comes up. So what does that mean? That means that they can generate leads faster and better than anybody else. So think about what you do, the end of what you do first, and how it affects the customer. That's the strategy. The second thing I told them, and it's very, very important, is you do not want to be an expense to your customer. You want to be an asset. And how you do that is the first part. What results are they going to garner working with you? Everybody has two things. Everybody has pain and everybody has a goal. And when they start working with you, they're in pain somewhere. That's the short term. The long term is, what's their dream? What do they want to achieve? You have to help them twofold. So think about these things. Have a cup of coffee, think about it, spend some time. Those basic things I just talked about are super important. When you work with a customer, you're starting short term. And then if you do your job right, they're with you long term. And when they show up, they have an immediate need. Understand psychographic, what their need is. Have a conversation. Don't be afraid of the face-to-face. I've heard people say, I don't like face-to-face anymore. Malarkey. I don't believe in that. I believe if you have a transaction and you're asking for thousands of dollars from people, you better have a face-to-face. If you're selling a widget, good luck. Good for you. You don't have to have face-to-face. But if you're having a conversation with someone about a multi-thousand-dollar transaction, you better have a face-to-face. What is a multi-thousand-dollar transaction? Every transaction to me is a multi-thousand-dollar transaction. If you want to keep your customer, they'll keep buying. So we're going to explain average transaction amounts and financial due diligence, because that will allow you to determine after a year working with someone how much money are they spending with you. Then you get to prioritize, do I want to meet with them face-to-face? Do I want to have a phone conversation with them? How important are they to me? Okay, so live the brand. A brand by definition, in a conventional, orthodox, not unorthodox, is the totality of an experience a customer has with your product and your service. I've heard a lot about branding. I've heard a lot about branding since I left corporate environment. I go to a lot of these events, and I get tickled because I think it's cute. But a brand, by definition, is the totality of an experience a customer has with your product and your service. In brand architecture, the fundamental steps of brand architecture, there are a variety of things. There's the brand promise, the brand positioning, the brand statement, all these little brand components that create the overall brand. The identity component is one aspect. The logo, the tone that you use, these are all components. So identity is one component to a brand. So I say that because I don't want people to put such an emphasis on the image of who they are. I would recommend that you put more emphasis on what you do and what someone can garner results-wise from working with you. Put the emphasis on that first, then you'll have the money to spend on color and business cards. So product lifespan. Product lifespan this is where we get analytical in marketing. This is fundamental, quintessential marketing stuff here. Product lifespan is if you sell a tangible, let's say you sell cookies. You sell, let's use a prime example, Juice Plus. I heard that today. So in Juice Plus, you have these gummy bears, right? Let's say there's 30 in a bag, recommended directions, say 1 a day. Marketers also write directions. Do you know why we write directions? Because we're telling you when you're going to buy from us again. So really look at your directions. What should your salespeople do and your customer service people do? Remember your cast, if you don't have that department, you are it. We are there to tell you, are you taking your vitamins? We are there to tell you, oh, if you follow the directions, because you've been hearing from me on a regular basis, your supply is about to run out, and I'm here to take your order. So it is our responsibility to tell the customer how and when they're going to work with us and when they need to reorder. Because if we are not giving them attention, like a relationship, they're going to wander. They're going to buy something other than Tide. Always innovate. If you put too many products in front of someone, they're going to get overwhelmed. So you have to have a calendar of innovation that's tied to a calendar of promotion that's tied to the person's lifestyle and their reception capability to understand and absorb your message. Why would you introduce 10 products in a week? Why would you introduce 10 products in a quarter? I've seen it done. And evidently, what happens is a lot of these products are not sold, and that's why we have 99-cent stores. So, because you take innovation a little bit too far. So again, only a few minutes. Just kind of think about always finding a way to reinvent yourself and finding a way to introduce new products and services that are relevant to your customer. And then telling your customer how often they should be purchasing or using these products and consuming these products or services in order to get the optimum result. So, for instance, with Karam, when you're mediating, and you have a client in front of you and the client has an end result, they know the goal they want, right? They're in pain and they have a goal. So the client could hem and haw about how many hours this is going to take in order to get the optimum result. And all you have to do is keep reminding them of the goal and the pain. And they will work with you if you keep reminding them of their goal and their pain. And it's going to take this amount of hours to remove the pain and achieve your goal. Help them stay on track with why they hired you to begin with. And connect with them, and they will stay with you and keep buying from you. Key to customer retention, product innovation. Okay, so expanding your category. I spoke last week at the Ritz-Carlton, and we had some realtors there. And very, very quickly, my recommendation to realtors, if I were a realtor, in expanding your category, if you sell homes and someone buys a house, especially today because you have to qualify, more so today than X years ago when these houses were nothing other than ATM cards. So if you can sell someone home and they can qualify, and I'm going to kill myself, thank God we have an IP attorney here, Dina, because we're probably going to need you. Or PI attorney, intellectual property, personal injury. I've got both. So, and she's my attorney, and she's fabulous, by the way. So on the realtor side, if you're selling someone a home today, it's hard to qualify. So now you sell them the home, you just leave them? What, do you wait for them to move again? Little plug for Palm Beach Woman Magazine. I had the opportunity to interview the CEO of the Palm Beach County Realtor Association. And we have a wonderful article coming out in the spring issue about Palm Beach County real estate on the rise. Good news. I put in charts, I put all this stuff, really great news. So we should all feel good as homeowners and investors about the great county that we live in. It's very promising, so invest in Palm Beach. So now what are you going to do? Wait for them to leave? Wait for them to get a divorce where they have to hire Karen and Mary Elias to do their work? And unless Dina wants to expand her practice and get into divorce, they might hire her. So my recommendation was to really understand psychographic your customer, pre-qualify your customer, snoop around for the money, understand how much money they have if it's a possibility that they can now buy an investment home. And so after you put them in the house that they're living in with their family and they upgraded because it's a great time to buy now, you don't hit them up to sell them a house a month later. You help them get settled, you introduce some interior designers, you introduce all the different components that make a house a home. And you don't charge them for it. That's the bonus. You give them the service for free. You refer them to the best of the best. And you stay in touch with them. And then, after they're settled in the home, months later, respectfully, you talk to them about an investment. Now you help them find an investment property. But you do the work first and make sure that the investment property that you bring to them is one that you cannot just sell to them, but one that you already have a renter for. You can rent it out and now help them achieve passive income. Why wouldn't they work with you? Now you got 3 deals in a year. You sold them a home, a house that you turned into a home. You're at barbecues, you're going over there, you're hanging out, you have a rapport going with your client, and you found an investment condo and you already have a renter, and you already did the mortgage, you know their credit rating, you know the mortgage person, you've already done the homework with her, and you said, Susie, could I put Johnny and Steve and Joanne and Steve into this house? Could I do that? And would the mortgage cover it? You see what I'm saying? Do the work first before you bring it to someone. Have it all set up. And it's a possibility that that person, that realtor who sold them a home, can now sell them an investment property, make a second commission, and then a commission on putting a renter in there. So those types of things. I'm asking you just to listen to this information and take it not literally, but figuratively, and find a way to apply it to your business somehow or another by thinking steps ahead, product lifespan. Once they're settled in the house and they're comfortable with the mortgage payment, then what? When are they ready to look for something else? When did the gummy bears run out? Or the vitamin bears, excuse me for not remembering the name of them. Okay, so you kind of get what I'm saying there. Co-branding or IP licensing. This is important because today a lot of companies are looking for new pieces of intellectual property because in early 2000 or late 2000s, in 2009, they cut in the product development area and they cut in the marketing area. So intellectual property seeking is definitely on the rise. Companies look to acquire intellectual property all the time because the key to customer retention is product innovation. So if you have a widget and you have secured intellectual property, I highly recommend and believe in licensing. Something I talked to Jeannie about a while ago when we had a conversation about the possibility of taking your product or your service and partnering with somebody else that has the means to distribute. Who has the customer that you want? Can you partner with them? Not forever, but on a venture. Can you create a strategic alliance with someone who has a product or service that complements your product or service and you share the customer? Because then the customer is getting 2 great things in one. I've heard you two work very closely together, Mary Elias and Karen. That is a great working relationship. And I would imagine that you also work closely with them, Nancy, on the financial side.
Actually, I don't do finances anymore.
Oh, you don't? Okay, you're out of that. So old news.
Past life, but that's good.
Past life. So find a way, like this is a great forum. It's a great forum. Maybe you'll get back into it now. I might get a customer for you. Maybe this is a forum where y'all can talk about the possibility of finding ways to work together. You're in fitness, right? You're in fitness. And then you should be partnering with a health person to find a way where you can tap into each other's customer base. Because people that are coming to you are very health conscious. So partnering with people that share the same customer is the ultimate way to achieve more sales. You get a smaller piece of the pie, but you get there much faster. Okay, next one. Customer life cycle. This actually is part of the product lifespan, but let me just give you one example of product lifespan. When we worked on, and it ties into customer life cycle, this is where the balance or the challenge comes in product innovation. When I worked on the Revlon license, we were producing hair dryers and ponytailers and so on and so forth. Same thing with Vidal Sassoon, brushes and hair dryers and straight irons. So when we were working on a hair dryer, we wanted to make sure that the hair dryer didn't break. Because if we made a hair dryer inferior in quality, it's going to break, you're never going to buy it again. You're done with the brand. You just had a failure, lost a customer. So now, how do we get you to leave that hair dryer that's working just fine and buy a new one? How do we get you to put down the thermal round brush and buy a new one? Still working, didn't break.
Innovation, better for our hair.
Innovation. So we introduce a new improvement. Ion hair dryers, ceramic round brushes.
Or the one that spins.
Or the one that spins. Wasn't my license. But that was a good product. But your hair did get caught in that. We did try it. Wow. Everybody got a haircut after that, just in one section. So then we went into hats to cover that up. So
That was invented by a guy.
that was invented by a guy. There you go. So in order for someone to buy from you again, you have to keep improving upon. You don't want the product to have a failure or your service to have a failure. But you do want them to continue buying because that's the whole purpose here, is product evolution. So we need customers that continue to buy on a regular basis by finding a way to balance and weave in innovation respectfully. Okay, a few minutes left. Execution. Every single person in your organization, internally and externally, should know what it is that you do and why you do what you do. So everything that we talked about today, really take the time with your employees, your team, your family, and your friends to explain to them the method to your madness. Why you do what you do, that is very important, because then people will be able to speak about you in a language that's yours. Okay, rushing, going through next one, customer engagement. You've seen this before. I call it the wheel of fortune. How do you connect with the customer? Marketing is analogous to a wheel. In the center of the wheel, the hub, is the customer. The spokes on the wheel are nothing other than tactics that you can deploy. There are a myriad of tactics that you can utilize today to get to the customer. And inside that inner tube that goes around, it's not hot air, but it is the message and it's the offer. What's the difference between a message and an offer? The message, if you notice at the end of a press release, it talks about, and this press release is about this company, ABC company, blah, 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 blah. Consistent, 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 consistent. What is your message? Who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? How do you do it better? How do they get in contact with you? That's your message. And then, what's the offer? What are you selling? What do you want them to buy? What pain are you taking away? What dream are you helping them achieve? That should be in every single piece of marketing collateral that leaves your mouth and leaves your business, and utilized in virtually every one of these tactics. Okay, rushing through it. Financial due diligence, very important to understand. Financial controls. What's your average transaction amount, or your invoice amount, or sale amount, or monthly dues that someone pays to work with you? What is your average? I'm going to pop something in here, talk about 10%. Some of you may have heard me speak about this before. How to almost double your income. Simple formula. Formula is, if you have 100 customers, find a way through these tactics to get 10% more customers. What is your average transaction amount? If it's $100, find a way to increase that 10%. What is your cost of goods? Get on the phone with all of your suppliers and negotiate to reduce. Here's the key to reduce your cost of sale. They may not give you a bottom line decrease. They might not give you an instant price reduction right away. But what you can do is put together a rebate plan. When I was head of marketing for this defense company, largest bulletproof vest manufacturer in the world, what's all over tactical armor? Velcro. All over. So what I did with Velcro, first thing I did when I came on board was got together with all of our vendors and said, if we hit a certain mark, an increase in sales, will you give us a rebate of X% to bottom line invoice at the end of the year? And before you answer that question, you would be fools not to do it, because I'm telling you, we are here to buy more from you, and you as a salesperson are going to make more money next year giving us a rebate, because our salespeople are going to be out there selling as much armor as they possibly can. You make more money giving me a rebate. We got a rebate, got an increase in sales, and we got a rebate because it was a bottom line. There was no risk. There was no risk. Create benchmarks and performance with your vendors. If I sell X, at the end of the year, will you give me Y? Very simple. And for a lot of people that work at your houses, bundle everything together. Your business phone, your personal phone, your cable, your cell phones. If you're not doing it, you should be doing it, and shop it with every single network provider that's out there. $300 here and there, $100 here and there, it makes a bottom line difference. It's soccer shoes, it's all kinds of income cumulatively that makes a difference at the end of the year. Okay, customer retention, we went through that. The other component that I didn't mention, customer frequency, in the increase in almost doubling your income, so it's 10% new customers. I'm rushing through this. Reducing your cost of goods 10%, getting your customers to buy 10% more, to shop with you 10% more. And if they don't shop with you 10% more, ask for a referral. If you can attract 10% more business, new customers, customer frequency, increase the transaction amount 10%, drop your cost 10%, you will almost double your net income, not your gross sales, net income. You could gross sales all you want. And if you have no margin, you don't have a business. Customer retention, we went through that. Expansion. Essentially, that's co-branding, partnering. The last one we'll get into, which is, so what's next in terms of what's going on with Palm Beach Woman Magazine and Palm Beach Marketing Team? Innovation. I started this magazine because I had an end goal in mind. And the pain that I had was I had to find people like you to understand what business women want. I had an end goal. And so what we're working on now is the possibility of exploring creating a TV reality show. And what I'm looking for are people that would like to participate in a focus group that can help us articulate the theme and the message of that show and the positioning of that show. And essentially, the show is going to be about celebrity businesswomen, like the forward pages of Palm Beach Woman Magazine. It always opens with celebrity businesswomen, working with ordinary, everyday American women like you and I in a pay-it-forward kind of model. So we're looking to explore the creative development, and I would like to work with women like you, because it's a show about women like you, to help us define and create the ultimate show that will provide innovation, provide visibility, the discovery possibility, to have that wow factor, to have people hear about you, see you, learn about your business, and with an increase in visibility, you get an increase in sales. And from that, you possibly could attract venture capital, co-branding partners, licensing, more customers, maybe get a job out of it. So that's what we're working on, and we're gonna, I think Nancy is going to pass a little bag. And this, when you put your business card in, I can absolutely help each and every one of you from a business standpoint to utilize these techniques that I discussed today in your business to help you grow your business, as well as if you'd like to participate on the focus group in helping us define and perfect a show. So thank you for your time today, and have a wonderful, prosperous 2002.
Thank you. Did you enjoy that? Wonderful. So I took away a bunch of nuggets.
You did too. I could see so many ways that all of us could use it. For example, I've been hearing a lot about this and it's finally clicking in. Yeah. If you figure out what your average sale is, so add up all your sales, like one big long strip, you know, the old paper strip. I used to be an accountant. I was a treasurer for the city of Cleveland. That's what Jill's remembering. I used to be a CPA and all that stuff, you know. I got away from that. I now am a people person, okay? So I don't do that stuff anymore. Just thinking about it makes me nervous.